The first act of our Nutcracker is History Now. You know, it's always amazing how easy it looks to an audience, just a group of handsome young people gliding around the stage. Well, I found out just how easy it is when I had a chance to meet with the people who choreographed tonight's production, Miyoko Kato and her husband, Bob Thomas.
Boy, you guys are really having a lot of fun. Boy.
Oh, we had a ball.
Yeah.
It's good happiness. We had a lot of teams to stick in. Never did get my final per diem check out of them. They still owe me $90.
I don't like
Watching
your
an opera
chances of
society
collecting
went out.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful city. We were there for about a week or 6 days or something like that in the city.
I have a question. What brought you guys to Iowa?
I'm originally from Ames, Iowa. We lived and worked in New York for several years, but when the time came to retire, we looked back to Ames, Iowa. There just, it so happened, was a dance studio.
You are retired?
We're retired from dancing, active dancing.
It was a little too soon, but because of the injury.
Soon. We're in our 30s, you know, and
well,
dancers
you weren't
start
quite
to consider
30 yet, yeah.
Start to consider retirement when it gets to that point, and the school was there. And
this is the one back here in Ames?
The one back here in Ames, the dance center was available for sale about the same time we were considering this, and we thought we'd give it a try. So we moved out here, and we've been here. That was 3 years ago in '78, and we've been here ever since. And we
So it sure has grown a lot, hasn't it?
Yes, when we started, the school was about 100.
150
students,
yeah.
and now it's
56.
about 500.
Yeah, and since then we built
that's quite a jump.
New building. Well, it's a Butler building, a new studio. We have 2 studios, and so I must say, things happened rather fast, didn't it?
Yeah, very fast. Went from a small place in downtown to a big building outside in the outskirts, kind of the downtown area.
How did the Nutcracker get started here?
Well, I'll answer that. We went to see the Pittsburgh Ballet Theater do a Nutcracker. And both Miyoko and I have been involved in many Nutcrackers, and when we saw that production, we kind of had it in the back of our mind anyway that it would be a good first production for Ames, a good thing to do for a ballet audience in Ames, because you don't need to have a ballet audience to have a successful Nutcracker, and it would be a good starting thing. So after we'd seen that production of the Pittsburgh Ballet, we had dinner with Richard Snyder from the center, the director of the center, and we proposed the idea of possibly in 2 years doing our own Nutcracker. And it was the Pittsburgh Ballet's Nutcracker was a great success here, completely sold out. So we felt that we could equally come up with something that would be as successful financially speaking, and that we could produce the dancers in that time to put on a Nutcracker.
You know what's so exciting is that I'm from the East Coast, and I've been very lucky to be able to travel around to do a lot of these types of programs. And there's a funny feeling that there's nothing between New York and Los Angeles in terms of ballet or opera or symphonic music. And to see a production like this being staged, and particularly the way you've involved the community in it, is a very exciting thing.
Yeah, sure it is.
And did you, essentially with the kids particularly, did you train most of them that we're seeing tonight?
Yes, most of the cast are from our students. I would say about 90% of the cast, and they're trained by us. But also there are some good ones that are trained by someone else, and they come from out of town.
You know, coming to the Midwest is kind of an exciting experience just for the reason you mentioned, because we too, you know, we'd lived in New York for 14 years and we didn't know how this was going to work out, but we really see it as kind of an area of undeveloped talent.
Boy, it sure is.
It's just an incredible amount of talent here that nobody's ever had the chance or taken the time to develop, and that's a big exciting thing for us here, and that's why we think we can do a lot more even.
You've certainly got a lovely theater to work with.
Oh, we've got a great facility and good backing here. We really are happy with that.
A question which I've always wanted to know: why are you using a tape instead of live musician?
Well, first, orchestra costs a lot of extra money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Money.
Plus, that was the first concern. And naturally, if it's available and it works well, then naturally we would like to use that. But second of all, when you work with the non-professionals, sometimes orchestra tempo is always slightly different. And then they might have a little difficult time adjusting to that, tempo change and so on. And it takes a lot of rehearsal with the orchestra. And then financially, I don't think we could afford that yet. Maybe someday. Yeah.
I think in stages, once people know what the Nutcracker is, the dancers become more comfortable with performing it. And most of these people that we work with, I'd say the majority of them have never seen or even know what the Nutcracker is. I mean, out east, they're bored with the Nutcracker. They want to see something else for Christmas. But here, it hasn't been touched yet. And it's an excitement that's in store for them here.
That's marvelous.
I hear.
Well, at the beginning of the program, I'm going to be telling the story, essentially, as we go along. You and I were talking about the story before. And it's still just a charming piece of work. And
That's great.
I'm just so delighted that, to see it here. How long have you been in rehearsal?
Well, most of the cast started to rehearse in the summertime, like let's say July. But I have been working with a lead couple who is going to be the Sugar Plum and the Cavalier. Now, I started to work with them since last January, so that makes it about a year, over 1 year of work, yeah. The rest of the cast started in the summertime, what we call second act. They dance on point, girls dance on point, and that has a lot of dancing in it. So we thought we would set that act first. Then September, first act started to rehearse, as well as the second act again.
Working with amateurs, you have to plan and schedule their time way in advance, because during the school year, they're busy all the time except Saturday, and it's hard to put on. You have basically 12, 13 rehearsals is all, which is not really very many, and a week apart. So we had to do the second act in the summertime when we could have them in there every day for a couple or 3 hours and really get it down so that it was comfortable for them, and then only brush up basically their second act during the weekends throughout the week. Meanwhile, we'd set the first act on
Do you and
Saturdays.
Miyoko split up the acts? I mean, how do you work together?
We work together. We do split it up a lot. I did a couple of things in the second act. Basically, this production, I was responsible for the first act, except for the dolls she did, and she was responsible for the second act, and as well as the snow, and I did a couple of the divertissement sections. But basically, we're each responsible for our own little territory, and the one that's responsible for that territory has the final word on it, so we're not two opinions on the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
That's the best way we found to work together, so we don't really fight, because we don't always agree.
I can't imagine that. No.
But somebody's got to have the final word, so we try to divide up the territory before we get started.
Also, we did help each other from not necessarily, if Bob has a good idea about, second act, he would say so, and if I had a better idea about the first act, I would say so.
I use her
it's not
input
really,
a lot, and vice versa.
But as Bob says, there's got to be somebody who has the final responsibility
That's right,
at that point. Yeah. Well, it's funny when I was told about you initially, I thought, my Lord, two choreographers working together, married together. How in the world do they live together? Do you have any differences of opinion from time to time?
We do, but we work them out pretty well. And as I say, we have split responsibilities there. So, when this discussion comes to an end, then whoever's responsible for that particular part, then we follow that opinion. And we've managed to work that out pretty well. We're both very excited about it. We want it to be good, and we offer input back and forth. And I'm always very happy to get anything she's got to say, and I think vice versa, because we're really the only two people here that know as much about the Nutcracker as anybody, so I need her. She needs me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? That's
Sure
a nice thing to say. What about the future plans?
Well, we've got a lot of exciting plans. Many things are on the drawing board. I don't know if I can speak about any of them in detail, but we'd like to ultimately...
Please don't. All I want to know is what they are, just no details.
Yeah. We'd like to come up with, over a period of time here, as the dancers develop, mature, with maybe 4 productions a year. 4 different things a year, if the backing goes well and all.
That's very ambitious.
It is. But as I say, this is an undeveloped talent area, I think.
You know, as the more and more good dancers are trained, they need some outlet to perform, and I think Nutcracker is the beginning of that. So that you know, after you become good dancer, what do? I mean, not everybody can go to New York, or not everybody can join the company. So I think we can provide a place for them to dance and get the stage experience. And then if they want to become very serious, then they can think about something else. But I think sooner or later, we'll be doing more and more productions, so they don't all have to leave the state. And maybe we can manage within Iowa.
It'd be nice if you could really hold back, you know, a cadre of your own native talent here.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people that really don't want to go anywhere else, but yet we want them to work hard and develop as dancers, and they say, well, why should I, you know? And that's their comeback, and our response to that is that we want to develop an environment where you can have plenty of performing experience and get the best parts of it.
What about older people? Do you work with old folks like me, or?
Yeah,
I have students as old as 65. We have classes for beginning adults in everything. Tap.
If I did a grand jeté, I would kill myself. And also anybody who's
I don't know. Our beginning ballet dancers, we have some of them do some
We do
pretty
have some.
fair grand jetés. We have a lot of classes for adults. It surprised us moving out here, actually, that so many adults were interested. But I think it's a trend that's developing and growing throughout the United States, that adults are beginning to take class, ballet class, for instance, climb back into a pair of tights, or for the first time climb into a pair of tights, go through that agony, but then find some real enjoyment out of it, because in the end, dance is a lot of good exercise. It really is.
Mm-hmm. No, I'd love to really take a class. It's just traveling, unfortunately, doesn't really allow it. But do you, when you say that you have the people up to 65, what sort of dancing do they do?
Well, I teach the adults mostly, so I guess I have to. They do. It's a different form of bar. It's not as vigorous as the younger ones, but it's,
what they call dance exercise.
That's one of the things. Ballet is a little bit more, you know, cut down a little bit. Also, as Miyoko just pointed out, the exercise programs, the dance exercise programs we have, where you incorporate some ballet and some jazz combinations in, and exercises, all to music and that kind of thing, just to move all the parts and keep it all in good shape and have some fun with it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main parts, and you certainly can see it in the ballet tonight. I mean, the kids are having a good time.
They are.
And it comes through.
Sure, yeah, they're very excited. Some of them are slightly nervous, but I think it's good. That's very natural that one would get nervous. I am nervous, too.
You are nervous?
Sure.
No.
It's going to be an important part of their Christmas from now on, we think.
Yeah. Do you hope that this will be a standard that you'll do every year?
We're expecting it to be, and we've made plans for next year already. We're even expanding on those plans a little bit over this year, because the sellout and the so forth has been so good that we want to expand it somewhat next season.
How about something like Hansel and Gretel? Or, you know, would you do anything like that?
Those are excellent ideas.
Sure,
we're considering the ballet we're considering really is Coppelia.
Coppelia.
Coppelia,
Yes.
yeah. We'd like to do a Coppelia. We think we'd be ready maybe in 2 or 3 years.
Bob, am I right? Coppelia was really the first ballet, wasn't it?
No, Coppelia is not as old as, let's say, Swan Lake or Sleeping Beauty, I believe.
It's not. I don't know why.
It's just, I think it was first performed in France. Most of other classical ballet, like Swan Lake, Sleeping Beauty, or Nutcracker, they're performed in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a different nationality.
With Tchaikovsky and Petipa.
Right.
Right, those two. Who I understand didn't get along very well.
Well, you know, that seems like always seems to run in a history, you know,
again,
composers and then choreographers, you know, they all have different ideas about how they should go about. And I believe when Tchaikovsky wrote Nutcracker, he was not very, in his best state.
He didn't like it at all.
That's right.
He really didn't like the music
right,
at all.
yeah.
Petipa didn't give him any leeway whatsoever on it.
I love the way he wrote the notes. You know, we need 16 bars of happy
he told him
music,
exactly
8 bars
what had to be done.
That's right.
You know.
Even though Petipa was sick, it was done exactly the way he wanted it because he had been so explicit in this, in this scenario.
I think it's kind of strange, though, the fact that Tchaikovsky really thought it was a downer and one of his worst pieces, and it's turned out to be one of his most popular operas. It's ironic in a way.
Well, you know, one of the reasons is because Nutcracker is related to Christmas. And then at Christmas, everybody becomes rather, you know, more like a festival or that sort of mood. And I mean, who could not like Christmas? So that, I think that is the reason that, one of the reasons.
I think also,
and has a story to it.
It has a
People
story.
would like any ballet that has a story to it. And this is, can be enjoyed by young children as well as adults. So therefore, I think that is successful.
Yeah, I love the family aspect of it. It really can be. It's for children of any age, to coin the phrase.
Really is. That was one of the things in the audition. We wanted to get more adults. There weren't that many adults. I mean, we had 130 children audition, maybe 25 adults, because most people didn't know that there were parts for adults to be in it. We got a very fine adult cast, but the audition was not a great turnout for that reason. We think after this...
well, I think getting 130 people out is amazing.
Yeah?
Really, I don't think... what would you consider to be a good turnout?
Well, the children turnout was great. It's just I wanted more adults involved in it because I didn't want them to be afraid to come and audition because they felt, gee, I'm too old and I can't dance anymore. Because the character aspects of the first act are great to have people of all maturities in there. The children, there was no problem with children. We got a lot of good kids in auditioning. Actually, the problem with auditioning children was to handle the ones we had to turn away because there's so many good kids you can't use. You know, and that's always a problem.
Yeah, limited parts for them.
There's just limited parts, and we just, you know, we keep trying to tell them it's nothing personal or anything like that, and we like them, and we're going to try to use them, you know, again in years to come, but we can't use everybody every year.
I wish that there are a little more men interested in being in it. I mean, not necessarily, you know, they don't have to have a formal ballet training or anything, but just to be in like a first act, you know, we could always use more guys.
Well, I think that that's starting to grow, though. You know, it's getting more and more to be accepted as a male part of entertainment.
But still, it is a minority.
Oh, yeah,
compared
absolutely.
To,
I have one last question that I want to ask you before we go back to the ballet. Did either one of you get any sort of a sneaking feeling that you wanted to get out there and dance?
Not I.
Not I either.
We had plenty of share of dancing,
There's a great excitement to putting on a production like this and sitting back and saying, gee whiz, we did a lot of that, or we were a part of that, and watching it happen and seeing them develop and seeing them do what, you know, we want them to do in the choreography, and then watching them take it and make something of their own out of it. There's a lot of satisfaction in that. And we both did have quite an extensive amount of performing to the point where my muscles are still sore sometimes when I think about it.
That's because you're getting so old now. Yeah, really old.
Oh, yeah.
Well, listen, I want to thank you very much for bringing this to us tonight, and we're going to go back and enjoy more of it.
Well, thank you very much
you.
for talking to us and saying this.